What's up, everybody out there in internet land? It's your brother Moshe coming to you live from the Man Cave. Yeah, I messed up. I meant to post this video before the last video, but the phone that I record everything on for my videos was full, and I ended up deleting the video. So these videos are not coming in sequential order. This particular video was meant to be posted before the last video. And with that being said, I got nothing else to say about that. You can curse me all you like, abuse me in the comments section. I am not technologically savvy when it comes to social media or all this other stuff, because it doesn't faze me one way or the other. I do not have a monetized channel. I do not edit my videos. I was going to learn, but I don't think I'm going to do that unless I ever choose to monetize my channel. However, I digress. Back to the subject at hand. This one is, don't practice witchcraft. And I'm going to tell you why. But before I do, time to wet the whistle. And then, of course, time to take a toke. I got to tell you, man, if you like mango, and I haven't tried too many other mangoes, but Bazooka Mango Madness, I don't get any sour out of it at all. Try it. You'll like it. Why you shouldn't practice witchcraft. Okay. Now, this is going back when I lived in Westchester County, and I had recently moved back into my mother's house. Now, I had moved out, came back home. Moved out, came back home twice. And I think moved out and came back home. The only time I ever came back home was when I just wasn't happy. My mother's home, and my mother was always a very safe place to be. I literally grew up in a neighborhood where our neighbors had our keys. You went on vacation for 2 weeks, you didn't think twice about it. You could literally go to sleep with your door wide open, and no one would ever go in. As a matter of fact, if your neighbors saw your door wide open, they would walk across, latch it, lock it, close it, call you, and let you know. I don't think that exists too much in today's United States of America, but we're the greatest country, right? However, I digress again. Now, at the time I was smoking cigarettes, and my mother's rule was always, you can't smoke in the house. You need to go outside. We lived in a garden apartment. It was a co-op. I know co-ops don't exist anymore. It's all condos. And it was 2 floors, 4 apartments per building. And it was just a little small, tiny flight of stairs. I would have to go outside to smoke. Now, I lived in New York. So, you know, in the wintertime, it gets real cold. At this time, I pretty much followed her rule as best as I could. During the morning, late morning, afternoon, and early evening. I'll be honest with you, a lot of times at night, I'd be in my jammies underneath the covers watching TV or a movie or playing video games, and I would not leave. I'd smoke in my room. I'd either burn incense, or here's a little trick for you. Turn on a light, the old light bulbs, and let them get hot. And, well, before I let them get hot, I would put a little bit of Muslim oil on them, and that was my little oil burner. Worked real well and very cheap. So there was this woman that kept walking around the neighborhood, and she was a new move-in with her mom. Attractive girl, but I never pursued, and I was never aggressive because there was just something inside my gut that told me to stay away. At the current time of my, I guess you would call them religious beliefs, I was more of an agnostic than I was anything else. Now, I was raised Jewish. I went to temple every Friday for Sabbath, and I went to youth group, and I guess what Christians would call a Bible study, but we studied the Torah when you were getting prepared to be bar mitzvah. And it's just, I stayed away from stuff like this. After a few conversations, I was going through some hard financial times. She told me she was a witch, and her mother was a high priestess in a very old coven. She had told me that they had spells that were written on parchment paper. I had this understanding back then, I guess what alchemists would call natural law. In my own opinion of what natural law is you just, whether you're a believer or not, there's a certain order to the universe. And from what I've understood from witchcraft and practicing a form of witchcraft is basically you can bend that natural law. I personally believe when you're doing stuff like this, there are malevolent entities. That's for people that the word demon is a little too strong for. I personally believe that malevolent entities are demons. I think New Agers would call them jesters. That's what I've heard. There's nothing funny about them. Whew. There's so much to say about this topic. And I still haven't validated my account because I always want to keep my videos to less than 15 minutes. Well, anyway, I steered away from it. I had a friend at the time. Let's call him Steven. Steven was a furniture salesman, and he was making nothing but commission, and he was making on average, I would say, $400 to $700 a week, which about, 15 to 18 years ago wasn't so bad. But he was very materialistic, and he wanted to make more money. One day he had come over. We were really into import tuners. He had an Acura Integra. I had an Acura Integra, and we were hooking them up and making them faster and customizing them and all kinds of stuff. I'll never waste my time on an import tuner again. It's nothing but American muscle for me from this point moving forward. So I introduced them, and I guess her innards knew his innards, and she, within first meeting, I think he started talking about how he wanted to make more money. She offered to cast a spell for him. Make a long story short, he agreed, and she did. And he jumped from averaging $400 to $700 a week to making, at minimum, $1,000 to $2,000 a week on average a week. And he was bringing in the ducats. He had a good girl at the time. He would always complain she was a little bit too chunky for him. She was a little overweight. She could have lost a couple of pounds. To me, very, very pretty girl. Gorgeous girl. Came from a good family. Dysfunctional, just like everybody is. But for the most part, a good girl. And she still was very pretty and very sexy. She still had her feminine shape. So, with that being said, things were going all right with him. And me and him had a very similar past. Yeah, I was a criminal. I'm not going to state to the level of a criminal that I was. Not yet, anyway. But we were both trying to like straighten our lives out and not be that type of a person anymore and be easier with the anger and all that stuff. Well, for the first month and a half, 2 months, money was flowing. He's going out. His car's getting nicer. He's buying clothes, buying gifts for his girl. They're going out. They're enjoying a good time. He had a good life. He was getting ready to move out of his mom's house. Then all of a sudden it took a turn for the worst because someone violated natural law. You see, because I'm a big believer in the devil's always going to come for his due. He's going to give you everything you want. Everything. But you have to pay a price. And when he comes to collect that price, it's a price that no one really wants to pay. You can believe in protection spells and so on and so forth. And that these creatures, entities, whatever you want to call them, they were around long before man ever existed. And if you think they can't fool and trick you, they know you better than you know yourself. And I guess one of the reasons why I never ever like fell into that kind of thing at that period in my life is because I had a really good mom and she taught me very valuable lessons. And it was nothing materialistic. She used to always say, if you're a garbage man and you're happy and you're surrounded by love and good people and you treat people right and you treat yourself right, you are the most successful human being that walks this earth. And it's a lesson I carry with me to this day. Not saying that I haven't fallen into materialism, not saying that I even haven't practiced certain forms of witchcraft in my day, because I have. But the bottom line is anyone I've ever known that has practiced it or has had a spell cast for them, they always suffer some sort of negative consequences. And this kind of goes along the principle of natural law. You cannot violate natural law, whether you believe what I believe, or you're an atheist, agnostic, Satanist, pagan, santero, santera, which is Santeria. Those are priests and priestesses within that religion. Voodoo. You can do all the protection spells you want. Demons have no loyalty towards anybody other than themselves and who's ever in charge of them. And I'm a big believer in free will. God can't make you do anything and the devil can't make you do anything. I always believe in the analogy that God's on your right shoulder and the devil's on your left shoulder, and they whisper in your ear, and whatever decisions you make, you suffer the consequences. And sometimes you make the right decisions and you get great consequences. They may be spiritual consequences, but not materialistic. They may be physical consequences, but not emotional. They may be emotional, mental, and spiritual consequences, but not physical. It's a very hard thing to describe within 15 minutes, but I hope I'm doing my best to kind of describe it. And according to my research, the newest form of, for lack of a better term, religion is witchcraft. And I've found that most people that practice this stuff, they have no feeling of empowerment or a decent sense of self-esteem. Because if you actually go out and work for what you want and achieve it, you feel much better about yourself. And love spells, they always backfire. To my knowledge, I've had a couple of love spells put on me, and it's only worked during very vulnerable periods of my life. They always backfire. So if you're practicing this stuff and you're thinking about practicing this stuff, trust me when I tell you, heed Brother Moshe's warning. And with that being said, love y'all, God bless, and don't practice this stuff. Love for you to accept Jesus. But if you don't, I'd rather see you be an atheist or an agnostic than practice witchcraft.